In a world where tales as old as time continue to captivate our imaginations, there exists one story that has endured through centuries of retelling, a story of love, transformation, and a beastly curse. But what if I told you that the origins of Beauty and the Beast might not be entirely born of fiction? What if, hidden in the mists of history, there lived a real couple whose lives bore a striking resemblance to this beloved tale? Join me as we unravel the threads of myth, legend, and truth, and journey back to a time where reality and fantasy intertwined. From the shadowy corridors of European folklore to the grand courts of Renaissance aristocracy, we will uncover the stories of those who lived in the space between human and beast. Prepare yourself for a tale where love may not be what it seems, where the line between man and monster is blurred, and where the truth behind Beauty and the Beast might be stranger than you ever imagined. Welcome back, Darklings. Before we uncover the true history that might have inspired Beauty and the Beast, we must first journey back to the origins of the story itself. The tale that laid the foundation for Disney and countless other adaptations was penned by French author Gabrielle-Suzanne Barbot de Villeneuve in 1740. Belle et la Bête presents a darker and more intricate narrative compared to the version most people are familiar with. In a grand mansion nestled within a bustling city, a widowed merchant lived with his 12 children, 6 sons and 6 daughters. Among them, Beauty, the youngest, was not only the most beautiful, but also the kindest and purest of heart. In stark contrast, her elder sisters were vain, cruel, and envious of Beauty's natural charm. Tragedy struck when the merchant lost his fortune. His home was consumed by fire, and his ships claimed by the unforgiving sea. The once wealthy family was forced to retreat to a humble cottage in the countryside. While Beauty embraced this new life with grace and optimism, her sisters complained and sulked. After some time, the merchant received word that one of his lost ships had returned to port. Filled with hope that his fortunes would soon be restored, he prepared to set out and reclaim his wealth. Before leaving, he asked his children what gifts they wished for. The elder daughters, convinced that their prosperity was about to return, eagerly requested jewels and fine dresses. Beauty, however, asked for nothing but her father's safe return and, if possible, a single rose. But fortune did not favour the merchant. The ship's cargo was swiftly seized to pay off his debts, leaving him as penniless as before. On his journey home, he was caught in a fierce storm and found himself lost. In his search for shelter, he stumbled upon a mysterious castle, its grounds dotted with eerie, lifelike stone statues. Inside, he discovered a lavish feast and a roaring fire, but despite his calls, no servants or host appeared to greet him. Exhausted and hungry, he eventually succumbed to the temptation, devouring the feast before falling into a deep sleep. The next morning, as he prepared to leave, he noticed the castle's garden was filled with the most exquisite roses he had ever seen. Remembering Beauty's simple request, he reached out and plucked a single rose. This innocent act, however, provoked the wrath of the castle's master, a fearsome beast, who threatened to take the merchant's life for stealing what he held most dear. The merchant pleaded for his life, explaining the rose was a gift for his youngest daughter. The beast agreed to spare him, but only on one condition: one of the merchant's daughters must willingly take his place. The beast sent the merchant home, laden with gifts and riches, but burdened with the dreadful task of convincing one of his children to sacrifice herself. Upon returning, the merchant told his family of the terrible price of Beauty's rose. Despite her initial fear, Beauty, moved by love and a sense of duty, chose to take her father's place at the beast's castle. The next morning, she and her father journeyed to the castle, where Beauty was greeted with unexpected celebration and warmth, even a firework display. As days turned to weeks, Beauty and the Beast spent long hours in conversation. Though he was monstrous in appearance, Beauty discovered a gentle soul within. Each night, the Beast would ask for her hand in marriage, and each night, Beauty would decline. However, in her dreams, a handsome prince visited her, and she found herself falling in love with this mysterious figure. He claimed to be a prisoner of the Beast, but no matter how diligently Beauty searched the castle during the day, the prince was nowhere to be found. In her exploration, she discovered numerous enchanted rooms, each offering its own wonder, from vast libraries and aviaries to magical windows that allowed her to attend the theatre. She also encountered songbirds, parrots, and monkeys who acted as devoted servants. Yet despite all these marvels, the elusive prince from her dreams remained just that, a dream, never appearing in her waking world. Time passed, and Beauty grew homesick. Sensing her longing, the beast granted her permission to visit her family on the condition that she return within 2 months. Using a magical ring, Beauty was instantly transported back to her family's home. Her arrival caused a stir, as her beauty had only grown more radiant. She was now well-fed, elegantly dressed, and more captivating than ever. Even her sister's fiancés couldn't help but fall in love with her, which ignited a deep envy in her sisters. When the 2 months drew to a close, Beauty, eager to honour her promise to the beast, prepared to return. However, her sisters cunningly persuaded her to stay longer. Their motives were far from loving. They secretly hoped that by delaying her return, the beast would be driven to such fury that he might kill Beauty in a fit of rage. One night, Beauty had a vivid dream in which she saw the beast lying on the brink of death, desperately calling out her name. This haunting vision made her realize the depth of her feelings for him. Filled with urgency, she used the magic ring to return to the castle as quickly as possible, only to discover the beast lying lifeless on the floor of a cave. Overcome with emotion, Beauty confessed her love to the beast, and to her amazement, her words revived him. She tenderly helped him to his bed, and in that moment agreed to marry him. The next morning, she awoke to find that the beast had vanished, and in his place was the prince from her dreams. But the story does not end there. As Beauty and the prince rejoiced, a fairy and the prince's mother, the queen, arrived with astonishing revelations. They revealed that Beauty was not merely a merchant's daughter, but in fact a princess, and the prince's cousin. The curse that had transformed the prince into a beast was the work of a vengeful, elderly fairy godmother who had raised the prince from childhood. When the prince grew into a teenager and refused to marry her, seeing her as a mother figure rather than a lover, she cursed him in her fury. The fairy explained how Beauty had been hidden away at birth to protect her from a dark prophecy, only to fulfill her true destiny by breaking the beast's curse through the power of her love. With the curse lifted, the prince's castle was restored to its former glory. All the strange statues came back to life as the castle's human servants, and Beauty's family was invited to join the royal court. Beauty and the prince were married in a grand celebration, and they lived happily ever after. The story is brimming with enchanting details that captivate the imagination. But where did Gabrielle de Villeneuve find the inspiration for such a tale? Born into a family of minor nobility, Villeneuve married a man who squandered her wealth, eventually leaving her widowed and facing financial hardship early in life. After her husband's death, she moved to Paris, where she turned to writing to support herself. During the 17th and 18th centuries, fairy tales were gaining immense popularity in France, particularly among the aristocracy. Villeneuve's own experiences of navigating social and financial challenges likely influenced her portrayal of Beauty, a character who, despite finding herself in dire circumstances, triumphs through inner strength and virtue. However, the motif of a bride marrying a beastly or animal-like husband is far from original. It's a recurring theme in folklore from cultures around the world, suggesting that Villeneuve was also drawing from a rich tapestry of existing myths and legends to craft her unforgettable tale. One such tale is the Italian story The Pig King, penned by Giovanni Francesco Straparola between 1550 and 1553. In this story, a king and queen, childless for 7 years, were blessed by 3 fairies who visited the queen while she slept in the garden. The first fairy granted her a son and protection from harm. The second ensured that no one could offend her and that her son would possess every virtue. However, the third fairy added a twist. Her son would be born as a pig and would only become human after marrying 3 times. Soon the queen gave birth to a pig. Although the king considered throwing the piglet into the sea, the queen persuaded her husband to raise him as their child. The pig grew up, learned to speak, but still wallowed in the mud. Eventually, he expressed a desire to marry, and after much persistence, the queen convinced a poor woman to offer her eldest daughter, promising her a future as queen. However, the daughter, repulsed by her future husband, plotted to kill him. The pig overheard and, acting swiftly, trampled her to death on their wedding night. The pig prince then married the middle sister, but she too schemed to kill him and met the same fate as her elder sister. Finally, he wed the youngest daughter. Unlike her sisters, she treated him with kindness and affection. On their wedding night, as they lay together, the pig revealed his secret. He could shed his pigskin and transform into a handsome young man. Though he wore the pigskin by day, the princess was content, knowing her husband's true form was the one she shared with him each night. In time, the princess gave birth to a human son. She confided the secret of her husband's true form to the king and queen, who secretly entered their bedchamber one night and witnessed their son's transformation. The king, astonished, ordered the pigskin to be destroyed and then abdicated the throne in favour of his son, who was crowned as King Pig. He and his queen went on to live happily ever after. Straparola's tale is just one of many animal as bridegroom folk tales found around the world. In these stories, the bride might marry a snake, a hedgehog, a lobster, a bear, or a variety of other creatures. But where did this bizarre idea of marrying an animal originate? Could the answer lie in the true story of a real-life couple? Petrus Gonsalvus was born in 1537 in the Canary Islands with a rare hereditary condition that resulted in excessive hair growth, giving him an extraordinary appearance. He is the first recorded case of hypertrichosis, a condition so rare that only around 50 cases have been documented throughout history. In an era when society lacked understanding, Petrus was perceived as less than human due to his unusual appearance. At just 10 years old, he was captured and imprisoned in an iron cage, where he was fed raw meat and treated like an animal. In 1547, he was sent to France as a gift to King Henry II for his coronation. Upon his arrival, Petrus was immediately locked in a dungeon, where he was treated as a savage curiosity to be observed and studied. Eventually, the court's doctors and scholars realized that Petrus was not a wild beast, but a young boy with soft, thick hair covering his body. He even told them his name, which they then transformed from Pedro González to Petrus Gonsalvus. Despite recognizing his humanity, King Henry continued to regard Petrus as a curiosity. As an experiment, the king ordered Petrus to be given an education, though he had low expectations, believing him incapable of learning. Defying these assumptions, young Petrus learned to read and write, mastered Latin, and adopted the etiquette of the nobility. His success astonished the court and transformed his status from a mere curiosity to that of a respected guest. With his newfound position, Petrus was permitted to dress as a nobleman and enjoy cooked meals, even earning the favour of the king, a significant honour in the 16th century. As Petrus's social standing improved, he was no longer confined to a cage or a dungeon, but he was still seen as less than fully human, a freak of nature meant to entertain and amaze visitors to the court. After King Henry's death, his wife, Queen Catherine de' Medici, assumed the role of Queen Regent of France. Known for her cunning and often cruel nature, Catherine decided it would be highly amusing to arrange a marriage for Petrus. She was curious to see what kind of children this union might produce. She chose a young maiden, also named Catherine, the daughter of a court servant, as Petrus's bride, but she did not reveal his condition to her. The bride first saw Petrus on their wedding day. Although her initial reaction to her husband was not officially documented, rumours suggest that she was initially horrified. However, over time, it appears that Catherine grew to care for Petrus. A portrait depicts Catherine with her hand resting on Petrus's shoulder, a gesture often used in portraits to signify deep affection. The couple remained married for 40 years. Initially, Queen Catherine de' Medici was disappointed when Petrus's first 2 children were born without hypertrichosis. But the couple went on to have 7 children, 4 of whom inherited their father's condition, much to the fascination of Europe's nobility. The Gonsalvus family became a sensation, touring royal courts across Europe where they were displayed as marvels of nature. Tragically, the Duke of Parma, where they eventually settled, sent away the 4 children who inherited their father's condition as gifts to other nobles, treating them as pets rather than people. This dehumanization persisted, and while the Gonsalvus children born without hypertrichosis were largely ignored, those with the condition were studied and painted, their lives exploited by the aristocracy. The couple eventually settled in a small Italian village, where Catherine died in 1623. There is no record of Petrus's death, possibly because he was not considered human enough to receive the last rites, further illustrating the tragic life of a man who, despite living among nobility, was never fully accepted as one of them. Petrus Gonsalvus's life, though bleak and filled with exploitation, is a story that has echoes in Beauty and the Beast. Yet, unlike the fairy tale, the real-life Beast and his beauty were not granted a happy ending, their lives overshadowed by the cruelties of a society fascinated by their differences. It's clear how the real-life experiences of this couple might have influenced and blended with existing tales of beastly husbands to shape the modern fairy tale we cherish today. But the origins of this tale reaches back further still, to a story so ancient that it predates even the earliest known records of human civilization. Psyche was a mortal princess whose beauty was so breathtaking that people started to worship her in place of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Furious at this slight, Aphrodite ordered her son Cupid to use one of his arrows to make Psyche fall in love with the most hideous creature imaginable. But when Cupid saw Psyche, he pricked himself with his own arrow, and instead of fulfilling his mother's command, fell deeply in love with her. Psyche's extraordinary beauty, while adored by all, came with a curse. No man would marry her. In his desperation, her father sought the guidance of an oracle, who directed him to leave Psyche on a mountain, to be wed to a fearsome creature, dreaded even by Jupiter and the inhabitants of the underworld. Accepting her fate, Psyche was dressed in funeral garments and taken to the mountain. There, the boundaries between marriage and death blurred as she was carried away by the west wind to a magnificent palace. In the palace, a disembodied voice instructs Psyche to make herself at home. She enjoys lavish feasts that serve themselves, and is serenaded by an invisible lyre. Her life is filled with luxury, attended by unseen servants. Each night her husband arrives in complete darkness, and she never glimpses his face. He always departs before dawn, insisting that she must never look upon him. Despite these peculiar circumstances, Psyche grows to love her unseen husband deeply, and before long, she discovers she is pregnant. Psyche's family yearns for news of her, and after much pleading, Cupid, still unknown to his bride, allows the west wind to bring her sisters for a visit. When they witness the grandeur of Psyche's life, envy consumes them. They attempt to sabotage her happiness by urging her to uncover her husband's true identity. They suggest that, as foretold by the oracle, she must be sharing her bed with a monstrous creature who would eventually devour both her and her unborn child. One night, driven by curiosity and fear, Psyche lit a lamp to look at her husband as he slept. She was astonished to see not a monster, but the beautiful god Cupid. Startled by the revelation, she accidentally spilled a drop of oil from the lamp onto him, waking him. Realizing Psyche's betrayal, Cupid fled, deeply wounded, and their enchanted palace disappeared. Heartbroken, Psyche wandered the earth in search of her lost love. After enduring many trials set by Aphrodite, including sorting vast amounts of grain and retrieving a box of beauty from the underworld, Psyche's perseverance and love for Cupid won the favor of the gods. She was granted immortality to be reunited with Cupid. The two were married in a divine ceremony, and Psyche was accepted as one of the gods. Written in the 2nd century AD, Cupid and Psyche shares striking similarities with Beauty and the Beast. In both tales, the female protagonist marries a figure with a hidden identity. Psyche fears she might be married to a monster, just as Beauty fears the Beast. Both women are warned against discovering the truth, leading to tension and separation. Psyche's curiosity reveals Cupid's identity, breaking his trust and causing their split, while Beauty's departure creates a crisis that must be resolved. Both stories also unfold in magical realms, Psyche's enchanted palace and the Beast's mystical castle. Ultimately, the resolutions of both tales involve transformation, Psyche's elevation to goddess status and the Beast's return to his princely form. As we've explored, the tale of Petrus Gonsalvus, with its intriguing connections to Beauty and the Beast, likely influenced the development of this beloved fairy tale. But the ancient myth of Cupid and Psyche, along with various other folk tales, also played a crucial role in shaping the narrative we know today. Historically, tales of beastly suitors offered comfort to women facing arranged marriages, providing a way to address their fears of marrying an unknown and potentially unappealing partner. These stories suggested that love and attraction could grow over time. Yet the true origins of Beauty and the Beast may lie in how these stories resonate with our sense of self and touch us on an emotional level. Both the Beast and Beauty undergo profound transformations through patience and kindness, underscoring the transformative power of love. The tale uses the transformation from beast to human as a powerful metaphor for personal growth, redemption, and uncovering hidden potential beneath a rough exterior. Ultimately, the story reassures us that true beauty lies within, an idea that remains universally compelling across all ages. But what surprised you the most about Beauty and the Beast's origins? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if your hunger for the origins of fairy tales still persists, be sure to subscribe and explore the rest of my channel. See you in a future video.